Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at the top three, and I will be releasing another video today on some of these smaller cap coins with potentially decent, really good decent setups actually, but I'll add that on another video because it will involve a few other altcoins that we generally don't look at on this channel, but do have potential actually to do like maybe even 2 to 3x's in the short term. However, before we start talking about 2 and 3x's, we really need to understand what's going on with the old Bitcoin. So let's have a look at the chart then, shall we? So this is Bitcoin on the daily chart. So still technically holding up okay, and potentially could be making some bigger moves to the up. However, there's a few. We're being wedged right now, and that wedge. The important thing to note about this wedge is that there's a descending trend line that if we were to break to the up and out of there, then yes, the all-time high could be met and then surpassed. That would be a zone to trade in once that breaks. For the moment, indecisive to the max, because what we're doing here is we're forming a wedge between this trend line here, this descending trend line, which we've been rejected from over the last week. And again, you know, this is weekend trading. I don't really like trading on the weekends, not only because I just don't have time, but it's a lot less predictable because there's all these other things that I like to look at, like the Dixie chart, like the health of stocks, and we don't have access to that over the weekend because they just don't trade. Basically, they don't trade, so I've got no data for those, and so without that kind of data, it basically leaves Bitcoin to float around, I suppose, like a plastic bag in the wind, and I can't really, you know, it's basically a lot harder to do over the weekend. There can be big moves, but I don't mind losing out on big moves if I found it difficult to find out which way those moves are going to go. So at the moment we've been rejected again from that trend line, which is no surprise. Rejection. But the thing to note is that we don't have any specific trend line of support, but what we do have as support is the 10 exponential and the 7 simple and the 21, which is the center of the Bollinger Band basically. So these areas are all supports. We also have this blue box zone here starting from basically 18,800 and finishing off down at basically where we bounced from yesterday, around about 18,500. So there's a lot of supports beneath us in a variety of different ways. To me, the important one would be the 10 exponential that will provide us a signal if we're going to continue up or down. And the way to work out if we're going to continue down is if we were to go down beneath it and find ourselves being rejected from it or closing beneath it, there is a chance actually that we would have a breakdown of this formation now and going into the consolidation, which is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for a consolidation for a little while, and we still don't have it. I mean, you could technically call this consolidation, but this isn't what we really are talking about. You know, this isn't really consolidation. You could even call this, a bull flag. You could say that. So there's a few things in this, and there's a lot of patterns and charts that get floated around on Twitter and whatever. You know, you could call this a bull flag. You could call this an inverse head and shoulders. So you've got a bullish pattern being the bull flag. You've got a bearish pattern, which is the inverse head and shoulders. All that being, you know, pretty messy, and I probably wouldn't really call it either a bull flag or an inverted head and shoulders. I wouldn't call it any of that. What I will be looking for is the signal to say we've broken out and closed above this trend, which is the descending trend, or we've broken down and closed beneath this moving average, which would be, you know, a sign that there's likely to be a continuation of the move down. So, you know, the chart formations, you know, bull flag, bear flag, you know, inverse head and shoulder, blah blah blah, they don't really work, and neither does a lot of things work when you're in such a bullish market like this. There's very little to go by apart from tangible supports and resistances, and they're the main things to look at. So supports and resistances opposed to, you know, formations and such. But, you know, there's a time and a place for those sort of trading strategies. But I don't think this is the time, nor is it the place. So this is the deal with Bitcoin. Now, if we look at some of these bad boys down here, we have the bearish divergence on the RSI, which is, you know, that's been going on for a long time now. So that can easily be interpreted as not bearish as such, but ready for a consolidation phase. Okay, we've also been negative slopes and very, 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 very tight, but still, I suppose, divergences on the MACD with the histogram again diverging again, so not bearish, but also not exactly bullish. You could basically you could argue that this is what's known as redistribution or reaccumulation. Again, both of those areas are perfectly fine. Redistribution basically is profit taking. Reaccumulation is people picking it up, and that is definitely happening at this moment in time. So it's both of those things which basically cancel themselves out, which I don't know why I bothered mentioning it, but it's worth noting that there are people taking profits and selling, and then there's people buying it straight back up again, so that is the deal. When we look at the money flow index, I did see this and I zoomed right out, and I've not seen a pattern like this form on the money flow index ever on Bitcoin, on this chart at least. Anyway, if you look at this is a real weird little squiggly zone here, and if you look at this, I mean, you don't need to know exactly what the money flow index represents, but you can definitely say that that's strange, and that doesn't normally happen. Wiggling around, very tight wiggles all the way up at the top, don't have anything at all that represents that at any point. What we did have is a similar kind of wiggly bit down here when we found ourselves reaccumulating at the bottom zone here, which is an interesting thing to note, because the last time we had this kind of pattern, although it not be at the top here, it did represent what was known as reaccumulation. So that in itself is extremely bullish, but this is very high on the money flow index, and so I don't really want to put this and this in the same boat, because they're not. This is reaccumulation down at low levels. This could be reaccumulation up at very high levels. So if there were to be a big move, it's not going to be quite so big, but it could be big enough to maybe increase the value to perhaps maybe up to maybe even as high as $25,000. It's a difficult one to call, I can tell you that one is a very, very difficult one to call, and this is why I'd like to focus on these two areas. The area being above this trend line, I suppose today that would be 19,000, we could call it 19,300 or 400, and breaking down and closing beneath 18,750. Those are the areas, and as you can see, these areas are going to get wedged and crushed together over the next few days, and basically meaning that it's very likely to have made its decision within about 2 or 3 days. By about Wednesday next week, we will know which direction it wants to go in, and at that point, it might be too late for us, because it'll this is a daily chart, so we have to bear that in mind. A closure on a daily chart will take a 24-hour period, if whether we've broken above it or not. But then that should give us confirmation about the next step up or the next step down, or multiple steps up or multiple steps down. So not very useful, I appreciate that, but this is what I would consider to be a no man's land of trading, which is probably why we've danced around this level now for quite a long period of time in comparison to where Bitcoin has come from recently and where it's been going. We are basically lurking around in a no man's land. Now this also corresponds exactly to the Ethereum chart. The Ethereum chart has basically done pretty much the same deal, although I would say there has been a bit of a delayed fuse on it. So this chart in itself is basically in the same boat, but is following Bitcoin steps. Now the chart itself is actually looking a bit more bullish than Bitcoin, which is a shame really, because I wanted to pick some more of this Ethereum up to throw into my bot. My Ethereum Easy bot has been doing very well. It's been going for just over 2 weeks now, 16 days, almost accumulated a whole Ethereum during that time. Started with 2, I've now got 2.75 over that period of time. So obviously my investment change has gone up, but I've also increased my amount of Ethereum by almost getting on for 50% at the moment. So it's been a great chart for the bots to trade on this one, and I wanted to bank some more Ethereum in this and get it at low prices. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, but at the moment the chart is more bullish than Bitcoin. In fact, if you look down here, we do have this, which isn't worth a great deal, but we look at the Bitcoin, we often look at this, I suppose, to give us an idea of what people are doing today. Longs are 69%, so exactly where I would say is a no trade zone. Above 72 has a very strong chance of a continuation of a bull move. Below 66, very, very big chance of a consolidation breakdown. But if we look at the equivalent on Ethereum, absolutely completely different story. 90 or basically 91% people in the longs on these two, just these two alone. This doesn't take into consideration the Binance volume, but yeah, I mean, very, very high up into the longs. So maybe I'm asking for too much to see that come down to areas like 500, but it would very much depend on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin does break down, it will break down with it, but you know, it's very, very strong. Ethereum is extremely strong at the moment and probably will remain to be strong for quite a long period of time, I would imagine. So yeah, a bit of a predicament there. If you wanted to pick some up, it might be worth maybe even biting the bullet and getting it at these high prices. This is a damn shame. Never mind. At least my bot is doing me a nice favour. It's accumulated me some nice Ethereum during this period. And I would suggest you get involved on this as well. Join my Telegram, by the way. A lot of us are using the bots. This is one of our favourite pairs just because of the volatility, buying and selling all the way up, all the way down. But anyway, I've got lots of other videos about the bots. And so we'll finally look at what's been going on with this bad boy. So this good old XRP just doesn't want to give it. Just does not want to give it up. It's just have a quick sip of tea. It doesn't want to give up the game. Now we obviously put in a very high top here, a very high top with a massive move that obviously most of us got involved in trading around about this level here, and most of us didn't do that. I got out roughly pretty much about where we are at right now, but it was still 100% profit. Now my outlook on this is that we will consolidate eventually down to the 200 exponential, wherever that may be at the time. But for the moment, it really doesn't want to give up the game. It is consolidating definitely from this high. It's really continuing to move up, and obviously the community for XRP is very strong. You know, you say something bad about it, they come down on you like a ton of bricks. Look, I'm all for it. I've been talking about XRP for months now, saying that, you know, these moves are going to be happening, and it was very unpopular for me to say on the channel. But people have slowly warmed up to the idea that maybe there is something in it, obviously, because we've had 2 occasions now where we've basically done 100% on this asset alone. So, you know, there is rhythm to the chart, definitely is. But in that rhythm, comes downtrend, and that's fine. We stair step up, we stair step down. That's what we did all the way down from this consolidation. Stair step down, stair step down. Now what we're looking to do is stair step up. But with every step, you know, you have to readjust your footing, and that's what's going to happen. On the way down, we basically come down up to test these 200 exponentials. We do have peaks above them, that's fine. You know, there's a lot of buying pressure with XRP, especially after what happened here. This is why a lot of people get upset about XRP, because they have been buying at high levels and they've not seen any returns. And when you see basically other altcoins just rocketing all the time, left, right and centre, you know, it's hard to not feel a bit begrudged when you look at the state of your portfolio if you've been doing that. But now it's a different story, but you know, in order to make money out of altcoins, you do really need to try and get appropriate positions. If there's a coin that you believe in, then that's a completely different story, that's investment. But for trading, it's a very different story. And what I'd be looking for doing now, so we traded this move, we did a good one here, stair stepped back down, reaccumulated, 200 exponential, giant big move up. The signal that was involved in this one was a weekly signal, right? Which could mean that we might not actually make it back down to this level. But in my opinion, I wouldn't be looking to buy any large bags until we at least went down further. I don't think it's ready to continue with a giant move back up again. I think the continuation was likely to be a stair step down to maybe at least the center of the Bollinger Band, most likely some of these lower levels. But just because the moving averages are at these levels right now doesn't mean that that's where they're going to be by the time we reach that area. It will want to and will need to not just consolidate, but reaccumulate for a period of time, ready for its next big push. And that's what I'm waiting for. At the moment, it's too volatile to be looking to get in here. It could go either or, up or down. And the moves on this, because it's a volatile asset right now, which sounds crazy because no one would have imagined that XRP would have been a volatile asset. They would have laughed in your face, and they did laugh in my face actually, many times when I was talking about the cycle of this chart and that there is rhythm to it, and it takes balls to buy a bottom, which is what we were kind of doing, basically, buying these bottom zones. And I've been saying that for a while. But now what I'm saying, again, is going to be an unpopular opinion, because it's saying, yes, there are big moves to be had with XRP, and yes, it is going to be great. But at the moment, I strongly believe that the consolidation will eventually bring us down to one of these 3 moving averages, wherever they may be at the time. We might not be looking for an entry point, maybe for another month or 2 before we get back into XRP. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there for those top 3. I'm going to see if I've got enough time now to make another video on these smaller cap altcoins, which basically do excite me a little bit with their prospects. But with small cap altcoins, there's obviously risk. Anyway, I'll leave it with you there. Thank you for watching. Take it easy.